Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of a review of the developer tools for the Google Chrome browser. Understand that the developer tools for Firefox are substantially similar, almost identical in a lot of ways. There will be some cosmetic differences, but I'm just going to review the Chrome dev tools. If you guys feel so moved, you can experiment with both. See if one suits your fancy better than the other. The differences are minor at worst. I mean, it is absolutely, they are two very, very detailed sets of introspection tools and analysis and debugging for any website. Generally speaking, it's good for, I use it a fair bit for kind of competitive intelligence, sort of thing where you're looking at what other developers have done and how they did it and how a site is put together. So you might be asking yourself, why am I looking at Weather Underground? Well, part of it is that this, when we're talking about like web applications that kind of present themselves as regular websites, I think of this website as a fantastic example of this. So wonderground.com is the URL that you can check it out. And if you want to follow along, you're welcome to. If you just want to sit back and watch this, you're welcome to as well. Understand that I'm doing this on at night, so it's kind of cold out. There is a weather alert, but this is the content. Well, let's talk about what's going on underneath the covers, and to do that, we need to open up the Chrome Dev Tools. So let's take a look. There's a couple ways to do that. You can do it using a keyboard combination. On my Mac, it would be Option Command I. Especially if it would work better if the browser was selected. Option Command I. Okay, and you see that it pops up a window. All right, and the other way to do it is to go through the menu for Chrome, which is over here, come down to More Tools, and then Developer Tools, and you'll see that there's a key combination that will unlock it as well. And here you go. You're on the Developer Tools. Now, your default view is probably going to be more like this one. Generally speaking, when you launch the Dev Tools, they will open up to the same tab that you were on before. So let's talk about the tabs. You've got several tabs across the top, okay? These all should be the default ones that come with the Dev Tools. First one is Elements. What is Elements, you ask? Well, Elements is the actual HTML that you're looking at in this browser right now. Now, take that as a distinction of if you were to go to this page and bring up the source code for the page. So if you went to, let's see, is there a way to do it through here? Probably not. Well, all right. I know Command U. Is that going to do it? No. Crash and burn. Here we go. So it's Option Command U on the Mac will show you the source code for the page. Okay, so you look at it, and there's hundreds and hundreds of lines, and that's fine. I'm just going to scroll, just to give you a sample of what's in this document, what's in this HTML document. So you'll notice that there's, from a static perspective, this is one way to analyze a web page. And classically, before DevTools came around, before Firebug came around for Firefox, this was how a lot of analysis was done, was you'd look at the browser source code and you'd make some tweaks and then you'd reload it and you'd keep on going. The tools have been much more sophisticated since then, so keep up. This is the static view. This is actually the code that you download from the website when you bring in that URL right here. It doesn't download any images, no JavaScript, no CSS. It's just the HTML that's at this address, okay? The thing about it is that when you download a file or when you download a web page, you're downloading so much more than just that HTML file. Now, understand that, when you're looking at this, all of this is collapsed. That's why it seems much shorter. You'll notice that there's lots of script tags, lots of other stuff, and a fair bit of, and you'll notice that as I mouse over certain areas, the area up top is kind of highlighting in blue. So Elements is not the same thing as viewing the source because the source code is just a one-time download. If any JavaScript or other things make any changes to the web page as it's displayed on the screen, and trust me, Weather Underground does this, this actually will show you exactly what is displaying on the screen right this second. So if there's any changes to styles or data or content of any type on this page, it will be reflected here and to a certain degree in here, but not necessarily in the source code of the file. Keep that in mind. All right. So that's Elements. Elements also has this little side pane over here, which is very helpful for understanding styling. This actually shows you for any particular element on the screen. So say let's, I forgot to mention that the third way, if you wanted to, if for some reason the dev tools weren't open and you wanted to launch them, you could launch them from inside the page by right-clicking or command-clicking or control-clicking on on a particular element and then going to the context menu and clicking inspect. As soon as you do that, it's going to basically launch the dev tools on the elements tab and highlight what you've selected. Okay. Furthermore, when you select something in here, there's a couple things to notice. One is that you've got the this notion of a $0. We'll get back to that in a second. So as you select items in Chrome DevTools, those items are assigned a variable name. Keep that in mind. Over in the right pane here, you'll see that there are styles, computed, event listers, down breakpoints, and so on. The ones we're really going to look at for our purposes right now are styles and computed. When you look at styles, now there's for a particular object or a particular element in a web page, there's some styling being applied to it, CSS, right? So when you look at this, you'll notice that as you come down here, you might see some elements or some attributes in styling have a line through them. And as you get further down, you'll see that more and more of those are happening. It's So what is that? That is actually telling you that these elements, these styles, are being overridden by ones that are further up in the precedence order or cascading. This is how CSS cascades. There's a precedence to how cascading works. And you should already know this, but if you don't, part of it is as, and we'll go through kind of a review of the orders of precedence for CSS. But for this, what you'll notice is in this pane, you'll see that the top level styling is the most, this scores the highest in precedence for CSS, for the CSS cascading rules. Okay, so when you look up here, you'll see why this element was chosen. So first of all, what are we looking at here? You'll see that there's a class feature menu, a class primary menu. That's what the dots are. There's an LI, so it's a list item with a hover, decoration on it, and it's in front of a label that says maps. So notice what we're looking at here. Inside of a class called feature menu. Yep, there it is. Okay. So if you look down at the bottom, you'll see it says nav. It's a nav element. There's a UL that has primary menu, so that hits both of these. And then there's a list item that you're hovering over, which is what we were doing when we right-clicked on it, right? And then finally, there's a label maps that basically shows what's so that is literally almost as sophisticated as the styling gets. There was 5 different levels of scoring of specificity for that style, so it scores very high and would be very difficult to override if you wanted to override that style. Okay, so that's kind of how you read these styles. So this one, as you can see, has 1, 2, 3, 4 levels of specificity. So that's going to score really, really well. It's going to basically override a lot of other styles, even if it shows up earlier in the HTML in terms of how it's linked. Further down, you'll see that there's a label. So for all labels, and as you hover the mouse over it, you'll see that anything that's covered by that style shows up there. There's befores and afters, which are very generic, and that's why it's actually the part of it it's basically every element has. So this is kind of a reset styling. Here's another label that has been completely overridden. And so on. So that's what's useful from looking at a styles comparison to see how the cascading happens. When you look at the computing or computed tab, this actually will show you some really useful information. First of all, it shows you the box model for the particular element. So there's the element itself. There's the padding for the element. You can see that on the left and on the right, there's 10 pixels. There's a border, which this one doesn't have one, so they're all dashed out. And there's a margin. Again, there's no margin on this particular element, so there's you won't see it. But on many others you will. But notice that as you kind of scroll out, you'll see that the different elements or the different kind of attributes are highlighted. The rest of this listing is what the actual, these are the actual styles that are in place. So if for any reason you wanted to override one, you can come in here and override it. So say for instance, you wanted to change the color, you can actually just go here and change the color, and now all of those, the color changes instantaneously for all of those elements that match on that style, okay? That's one way to do it. It's not the only way, but just understand that that is a really useful way to kind of navigate the styling and the capabilities of finding what you want to kind of work on inside of this. So that is the Elements tab. Hugely powerful. You're going to spend a lot of time here. Next over is the console. This is the JavaScript console, and as you can see, generally speaking, you don't want to run into warnings or errors. Any of your pages that you're going to put up, you need to make sure they don't have any warnings or errors in the JavaScript loading. So if there are, that's going to cost some points, because it's the point of this is to work as effectively as possible and correctly. So generally speaking, public web pages, it's hit or miss. A lot of ones that are really aggressive might not have, and what you'll also find is for a lot of these, it is ad networks that basically add on to that websites will add. You'll notice that there's this ad up here. There's also ads along the right side that show a lot of this stuff. They are interjecting a lot of JavaScripts as well, and they're a lot less sophisticated about how they do them. Well, some of them are. So just keep in mind that when you're looking at the Java console, the JavaScript console rather, you are looking at kind of how this page performed from a JavaScript perspective. If there were any warnings or errors, you can also look at it. But the power of the console really comes into play when you start to use it for, you can use it for a certain amount of interrogation and questioning. But remember what I told you, when you selected an element in here, you can actually look at it inside the JavaScript console. So when you select something for inspection or in the elements, so coming back here, you'll see that there's this label element that says maps and radar label, and it shows you this $0. If you come over to the console and you type $0, first of all, you'll see that you're getting some code completion. So it shows some interesting things. You can see some of the things that I've done in here in the past, where anytime you've used the console, it kind of saves the history for you, which can be very useful. The other part of this is that you can, and you'll see that it's refreshing right now, so I'm going to let it finish refreshing, and then we'll get back to it. Ooh, it sure is slow today. I should have paid my broadband bill. All right, so let's take. Let's see if I can get the element back up here. Now it's basically. All right, let's just do a hard reload on this page. There we go. All right. So once again, we'll select this, inspect. Nope. One more time. There we go. All right. So your $0 is this label. Go to the console, hit $0, and there you go. Here's your label. And in fact, if you mouse over it, it's the same element. Okay. So, and you can now do some things with this. So you can now say $0.innerText equals, yeah, hey, you guys, let's just do that. All right. And now you'll see that I've changed in the document, I've changed that menu item to read, hey, you guys. So it doesn't, this is just a demonstration of kind of what level you can start to mess with web pages. Now, this is not we're not modifying the live site. We're just modifying the data in the browser right now. So as soon as you reload the page, it wipes out the change and you're back to the boring, weather map. Jeez. All right. All right. So let's keep moving. So as you load this, actually, let's skip. Well, no, we'll do this. We'll do this right. So there's also the sources tab, which actually shows you every website that the content is being pulled from. And I'm just casually scrolling here as it goes on and on and on. So you'll see that there's lots of different ad networks as well as weather.com and other Facebook, Google. So you'll see that there's lots of other sites involved every time you load a page. Something to be interested in. Now you'll notice that a lot of these loads up different. I'm going to go ahead and close these up. If you wanted to take a look at any of these files, you can. You can click on the file and it will show you what was loaded for that request. So that gets very interesting when you start to get down into these where you're looking at JavaScripts and you'd be like, oh, this is copyright the Rubicon project. Well, good for them. But this is some JavaScript. It's clearly been minified, so meaning that it has been compressed as tightly as it can and not encrypted. Though you can undo some of that with pretty printing of the source code. Doesn't always work great for minified code because it does other things like changes variable names. You'll notice that the function name of this first function is A with 3 variables B, C, and D. This is kind of how minification works, is it replaces all the names with single letters, and then it can make it very difficult. It can still be difficult to try and reverse engineer this. That said, it is a useful way to kind of get a look at what code is running. If there's any shenanigans going on, you generally can be able to scan it through or scan it for it in this manner. Not asking you guys to be that level of performance, but just giving you an idea of how those use this. All right, now let's talk about network. So network is really fascinating. For performance reasons, when you want to find out how fast a page loads, this is the way to do it. So how does it work? So first of all, you want to make sure that you're recording. So if this is not lit red, if this is like black, okay, you want to make sure that you turn on recording. You can do that by hitting Command E or Control E, and just make sure that it's lit red. If you need to, you can clear whatever's here, and then just make sure that you have this set to all, or if the filters are like this, just make sure that the filter is black. If for any reason the filter is red, it's going to tell you that there's a filter applied. Go back, check it, make sure that it's set to all, or just turned off, okay? And then the rest looks good. Let's reload the page and see what happens. Wow, that was a long time. So it told you that it made 270 requests. Oops, sorry, 271. So this is kind of it. Is like we're going to start to see some things happen while we're watching this. So far, 271 requests, 762 kilobytes are transferred. It finished in 17, almost 18 seconds. DOM content loaded was 1.14. So that's when the main document object model was created. And then the load time from that perspective is 1.35 seconds. So just things to understand is like the amount of data transferred and the time it took to load is kind of this, this is the actual time it took to finish loading for all of the content that was on this page. Generally speaking, you want this to be closer. Now notice it just because there was 7 new requests, it basically just pumped it bumped this out. And you'll notice that now there's this huge lag between here and here where some updates, some data was being refreshed. This is kind of where I was going with this being a dynamic website. It doesn't look like it from the front. It looks just like, oh, it's just weather. It's just weather maps. But man, this thing is a workhorse of dynamic content generation. All right. So the things to get from this is that if you do want to stop recording, meaning you don't want to have this sort of stuff happen, you can actually come up to this area up here and you can just click and drag and it will select just the part that you've highlighted, and it's going to tell you the parts that are captured herein. So if you wanted it to say the original page load, which was 762 kilobytes and finished, it was not 1.1 minutes, but it was what was that, 20 seconds? Oh, it was about 17 seconds, almost 18 seconds. That's right. You can actually look through, and now you can scan by looking up here at all of the requests that were made just to load this page. Oh, interesting. So you'll notice that some of these were canceled. So anytime they show up red, that's generally an indication of an error. And then further up the order, you'll see, now you will see that there are what you're looking for here are a status code. So let's talk a little bit about status codes. If you guys haven't talked about HTTP, which is the protocol that lets you, that drives the web, there are status codes that are associated with different conditions when you load a resource from a website. So from this one, notice that it shows you the question MR1 is literally just the fact that we're pulling the index of this website, and these query parameters were provided. Another story entirely. But you'll notice that the status return was 200. 200 is generally considered success. It's called, in fact, the code is called OK in the protocol. Scrolling down, you'll see that there's a 304. 300s are generally what's called redirects. So 300 class numbers go from 301 to 307, maybe 308. And you'll see those are where it's basically the web browser does a request and it gets a number back saying, I'm not where you're looking. This isn't where you should be looking for this. Go over there. And so that's why you'll see numbers like this. In other cases, like I said down here, these were canceled. So these weren't completed before they were started, and then they were canceled. So we never got a status code back from them. There's some 304s, there's some 200s. Sometimes you'll see if a resource isn't found at all, you'll see a 404, which is the code for not found. Sometimes you'll see 401, which is forbidden, 403, 404. Those are all error codes that basically tell you've done something wrong, and I can't continue. Then there's 500 codes, which is basically blaming the server, saying the server had a problem sending this to you. It's not my fault and it's not your fault. It's the server's fault. Anyway. Okay. So the network tab is very useful for this. You're going to this is part of your homework to follow along and find out this information here for a particular page. Now, let's go to timeline. Timeline is actually for performance reasons. We're not going to get too far into this right now, but it is illustrative for this to think of how a page is run. And you'll see that when you're working with a dynamic page, you'll see that there's periods, especially when there's animation on the screen. Now, right now, there's no animation, so it's going to be kind of quiescent. It's going to be very quiet, not doing much. But you will notice that there mostly of the time that we were recording, there was, I'm going to bring this up a little bit. No, I can't bring that up a little bit. Is there any way to bring this up a little bit? There we go. Okay. So you'll see that there's a summary tab. It shows you that of the almost 3 seconds that we were recording, it says 3.11 seconds. Just a couple hundred milliseconds of that, or just a little under 10%, was script running. Then there was some other stuff, and then the rest of the time the browser wasn't doing anything at all. That's actually interesting to see, but it only works as you click record. So it's not like the network one where you can click record and just kind of leave it running. This one, you click record and nothing happens. You gotta wait until you stop it to to basically have a look at the trace. Again, we're not really going to use this. The rest of these are kind of left as exercises for you guys to explore and get to know if you'd like. Security can be an interesting place to look at, especially if you're looking at websites that are carrying the secure tag. These would be SSL, TLS websites that use the public key infrastructure to create a secure connection. So you can generally look at the certificate. It'll tell you whether the certificate's valid. Usually, if the color's green, you're good to go. If it's red for any reason, there's cause for concern and or scrutiny. So this will tell you some of the other things about the connection that you made. You don't have to understand these things. I'm never going to test you on it for this class. Finally, audits I don't really use right now, but this is an area for you to take a look at. All right, so last things to think about. I know this video has gone long enough, so there's a couple of things about this that the tools that are really cool. First of all, you can change how the tools display on your screen. Currently they're docked to the bottom. You can also dock them to the right. So your screen kind of squeezes left and right, gets squeezed. It's a little narrower, but the same tools are available to you. They orient themselves slightly differently when they're docked to the right. You can also fly them into their own window, which can be very helpful for working on when you start working with if you're fortunate enough to have multiple screens on a computer that you're working on, you can fly this over to another one, still have plenty of room on your main screen for, tweaking things while you've got your monitoring and your debugging and all this other stuff happening in the other window. What's left? Oh, so the last thing here that I'm going to show you right now is a couple more things. One is that you have this little arrow with a box. It used to be that this was a magnifying glass, but now it's an arrow with a box. And what this will do is this will let you kind of troll a page and find an element that you want to look at. So if you're saying, oh, I really wonder how they did where the location is or where the weather station is, and you click on it, it will then highlight it, just like if you had right-clicked on it and clicked inspect. It will highlight it, it will assign it to $0, and it will show you the current styling for it. Pretty cool. And it allows you to kind of start to see other things here. So you'll notice that there is a background image. You can right-click on this and you can open that background image in a new tab, and it's going to show you, hey, wait a second, what's this? These indicate a sprite. So this is actually a graphic file that has multiple things inside of it that get indexed depending on the particular parameters inside the CSS that tell you which part of this graphic file should you display on screen. So you'll see that these are actually, and this little widget right here is the part that is it's this background image. And so they'll tell you the background position, which is actually the indexing into the sprite. the fact that it's not repeating and all these other things, so that it displays just the part of the sprite that you want to show. Pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Last is that you can actually toggle and simulate a device. I'm going to dock this the DevTools in the right side. I'm going to click this, and what this does is it actually simulates a mobile device. Now, generally speaking, when you click this to enable it, you should also refresh the page just to be sure, because a lot of web browsers will change how they load based on whether a given device is a mobile phone or a desktop. So here you go. This is what the weather page looks like when you load it on a mobile browser. So, and you do have the ability to scroll. It doesn't really show. I believe you can do pinching, and I'm not going to show that right now. You can change the device orientation, and it will show you the device orientation changing from landscape to portrait or vice versa. And also, you have several different types of devices built in. You can also create other ones. This is a healthy representation of kind of what's out there. I know that the iPhone 7 can be there, or the Galaxy Tabs, or Note 7 that explodes when you carry it on a plane. All these other things are available to you, but generally speaking, this is a great way to preview a mobile device without necessarily having a mobile device handy. It behaves much like a mobile device, not exactly like one, but much like one, in a way that lets you test it on a wide variety of devices so that you can more effectively target your browsers. Okay, that's it. I'm going to take a break now because, man, this is thirsty work. This was, showing you how to interrogate a page with Chrome DevTools. Again, Firefox DevTools, very, very similar to this. Absolutely, you can do this, and it would be very similar. So anyhow, thanks for watching. Have a great time. Enjoy, play with DevTools, and we'll see you later.